We also need to decide to leave your comfort zone. In John 4:1-26 and 39-42, in that chapter, what we have is an interaction between Jesus and a Samaritan woman. Jesus was a Jewish rabbi. Rabbis didn't talk to women outside of their own immediate family normally in the Jewish culture, right? Jesus was also a Jew, and this one was a Samaritan. Most Jews wouldn't have even walked through Samaria, would certainly not want to interact with Samaritans, both because of how they look down on Samaritans, but also how they might be stigmatized in the eyes of their fellow countrymen if it was known they were interacting with Samaritans. But in this passage, we see Jesus not only interact with the woman, he initiates the interaction, and eventually it leads to a very spiritual conversation, and she ends up coming to faith, not only coming to faith that Jesus is the Messiah, but she runs and brings a whole town of people out where many of them come to faith too, right? So in what ways do we see Jesus leave his comfort zone in this passage? Well, again, he does something most rabbis wouldn't have done. He does something most Jewish men wouldn't have done. He interacts with somebody in a place and in a situation that for most people like him would not have been comfortable. Why does he do it? Because he loves her and he wants to see her come to faith in him. He wants her to be saved. And so he's willing to go to what essentially is an uncomfortable place. And as you'll see, if you go back and look at the passage, it has great impact. Not only does she come to faith, but she brings others to faith as well. Here's what Paul writes in Philippians 2:3-8. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of the others. In your relationships with one another, have the same mindset as Christ Jesus. Again, a disciple is someone trying to be like Jesus, right? Who, being in very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage. Rather, he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant. Remember, we talked earlier, we got to decide to serve people. And being made in human likeness, and being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even to death on a cross. So what does Paul call disciples to do in this passage? Well, he calls on them to put others' needs above their own. As a disciple, it's not about me. It's not about me and what I want and my comfort and my preferences. It's about others. What do others need? And whose example does he call us to follow? He says, well, we should each have the same mindset as Christ Jesus. We should follow Jesus' example of leaving his glory in heaven. He did not consider equality with God something to be grasped. Meaning that it doesn't mean he stopped being God, but it means that he left his glory in heaven behind to come to earth. Now, you talk about getting out of a comfort zone. You're going to leave being glorified in heaven to come to an imperfect fallen world and live on earth simply to try to save other people. That's getting out of a comfort zone right there. And why did he do it? Because he loves us, because he wanted to save us. He was willing even to die on a cross. And as disciples, we're called to do the same thing. We are called to get out of our comfort zones to help save other people. That's what we're called to do, right? 1 Corinthians 9:19-23. What is Paul talking about in this passage? Well, what does he say in the passage? This is where Paul talks about, I have become all things to all men in order that I might save as many as possible. What lesson might we learn from that? How might we apply it practically in our own lives? Paul said, I am willing to become all things to all men. To the Jews, I became like a Jew. To the Gentiles, I became like a Gentile. What is he really saying right here? Well, what he's really saying is, it's not about me. I will become whatever I need to become. As long as it doesn't involve sin, as long as it doesn't involve compromising what's righteous, I'll go anywhere, be anything I need to be, if that helps me relate to you, if that helps me reach you, if that helps me build a relationship with you I otherwise might not build in order to help you become a disciple. It might involve getting involved in a hobby you normally wouldn't take up, but you're going to take it up because this person you're trying to reach takes up. It might involve you going out and engaging in a certain social activity that normally you don't really find that fun. It's not your thing, but you'll go because you know it means a lot to this person and they want to go. And again, these are things that wouldn't cause you to sin, wouldn't cause compromising on what's right. It just means that you would do something or become something you normally wouldn't for the sake of reaching the person, right? So, what are some modern day comfort zones? And how can staying in our comfort zones stifle our ability to reach the lost and make disciples, right? What are some of those modern day comfort zones that you have? The places where, this is just who I am, this is me, I don't feel like getting out of my comfort zone. Maybe it's you're an introvert and you've got to get out of the comfort zone of not being social, right? Maybe you're not big into a lot of physical activity, but you need to get out of the comfort zone of just staying in the house and sitting on the couch. Maybe you really value your personal time and you got to get out of the comfort zone of just going to work, coming home, and just, being with yourself. And you got to become, again, more social than that. Whatever it possibly can be, we have to be willing to get out of those comfort zones in order to build relationships. And then also you got to decide to hit the fishing holes. So what do we mean by fishing holes? Our fishing holes as disciples, those are simply places which we frequent and can encounter people and opportunities to engage in outreach. Okay. So those would be our fishing holes. The gym you regularly go to, the sporting events your kids are involved in. And so you're going to see the other parents on a regular basis, your workplace, your school, other things that you're involved in regularly where you see the same people again and again. Those are your fishing holes. And again, there's some examples of fishing holes. Your workplace, your classes, if you're a stay-at-home parent, other stay-at-home parents in your neighborhood, or kids, your kids' friends' parents, something like a PTA or a PTO you're involved in. So again, those are all examples of it. Think about what are the places you frequent that you could really be a relationship builder if, like we said in our previous lesson, you're intentional about it. Even set some outreach goals. So here's your charge for the week. Think of someone you can love and serve this week. Start by considering those you reached out to last week, the week before. Remember, we had a charge the week before at the last lesson to set some stepping stone goals with a person. What are some ways maybe you can take that relationship higher and love and serve them this week? Come up with a plan to love and serve them in some way which you think they would appreciate. And make sure you have no agenda other than to love and serve them. Okay? If it turns into something more where you can actually go ahead and talk about Jesus and they're open to it, that's awesome. But your agenda is nothing more than to love and serve them, not to try and solicit any kind of response in return. Do at least one thing every day to get out of your comfort zone. Do one thing every day to get out of your comfort zone to reach out to somebody or to further the gospel. And then finally, identify a fishing hole this week. What is a place in your life that definitely could be a fishing hole for you? And decide on a good stepping stone goal to reach out to someone there. And it might just be getting to know someone's name or having an initial conversation. Okay? So the main points of this lesson, we should reach out to the people because we have chosen to love them, regardless of whether or not they are open to the gospel. Loving people in this way means being willing to serve them. Loving people in this way requires a willingness to get out of our comfort zone in order to be what they need us to be. And identifying and working our natural fishing holes is a great way to both stay engaged in the Great Commission without having to find additional time. And it's a great way to build relationships. So there you go. Oh, got kind of dark in here. We had a little bit of a power outage. I'll see you next time.